Okay, let's be honest. Research can be very, very stressful, especially when you are designing your project. And the truth is, even small mistakes in research designs can mess up your entire study. Today, I'm breaking down the most common mistakes students make in research design, why they happen, and how you can fix them. So think of this as a mini research survival guide. The first mistake is unclear or overly broad research questions. One of the biggest mistakes is starting with a vague or overly broad research question. For example, a question like, why are students stressed? This question is too broad because stress has many causes, different contexts, and it varies by population. And why is this a problem? A vague question like this makes it hard for you to choose your research methods, collect relevant data, or even know when your research is complete. So the solution here is to always narrow down your research questions. Make your questions specific, measurable, and focused. So a better version of why are students stressed can be, what is the impact of exam schedules on first-year university students' stress level in so and so university? So you should always ask yourself these questions when you are trying to know if your research question is overly broad or not. You can ask yourself if you can realistically answer this in the time and resources you have. So can I realistically answer this question in the time and resources I have? If not, that means your research question needs to be further refined. Then the second common mistake is choosing the wrong method or mismatching a method to a question. And this is very, very bad. Another common mistake here is that you are going to pick a data collection method that doesn't really match the research question. For example, you are looking to explore how students feel about online learning, but you're only collecting yes or no responses in a survey. At the end of the day, you end up with numbers but not real insights to how they feel, right? And this is a problem because the wrong method produces data that does not answer your question at all, and it wastes your time and effort. So the obvious solution is to match your method to your question. In terms of qualitative questions, look for descriptive data, interviews, focus groups, and observation. For quantitative questions, collect numerical data, use surveys, and you can even do experiments. And also sometimes the best approach is mixed methods. You can probably start with a survey for breadth, then follow up with interviews for in-depth knowledge. And then the third mistake is not considering sample size or sampling technique. Many students ignore sample size or choose participants randomly without even thinking about representation. For example, conducting a survey on student stress levels, but you're only asking for your friends in one department. This is really a problem because your findings may not represent the population, and this will make your result very unreliable or biased. So the best solution here is to always plan your sampling carefully. Decide who your population is. Choose a sampling method that fits your study, either it's random, stratified, or purposive. And then you calculate a sample size that is large enough to make your results meaningful. So even if a small, well-chosen sample is selected, this can be more valuable than a large and biased one. Always remember that. Then the fourth mistake is ignoring ethical considerations. Ethics is often overlooked, especially by students who just want to get the data done. For example, recording interviews without consent or asking personal questions without preparing for sensitivity. This breaches the bounds of ethics, and this is a problem because ethical mistakes can totally invalidate your research, harm participants, or even get your project work rejected. So always plan for ethics. Get informed consent from participants, maintain confidentiality and privacy, be transparent about the purpose of your study. Tell them what the study is about, and then prepare for sensitive topics by giving participants the option to skip those questions. For example, questions asking participants about their sexual status, about their sexuality, and all those stuff. So always think of ethics as part of your research design and not something that is an afterthought. Then the fifth common mistake is poor planning or unrealistic scope. Some students just enter into the research without a realistic plan or timeline. For example, you are planning to survey the entire university population in 2 weeks, but you have limited resources. Poor planning leads to incomplete data, missed deadlines, and unnecessary stress. So the best solution is to break your research into manageable steps that you can achieve. Define your research question and objectives clearly, choose the right methods, plan your sample and data collection process, set deadlines for each stage, and then you review and adjust as you go. You see how we've broken it down into manageable steps here. So a well-structured plan can save you weeks of frustration and And think of it just like a roadmap, because you will know exactly where you are going. So at the end of the day, what am I trying to say in this session? Be specific with your research question, match methods to questions to get useful data, plan your sample size and technique carefully, always include ethical safeguards, and also make a realistic plan and stick to it. Follow these tips and you will avoid the most common pitfalls that derail student research. Trust me, spending time on design now will save you from hours of headaches in the future. All the best, and thanks for sticking with me. Bye.